is it? What's going on?
Number 10. A moldy surprise. In the early 2000s, the Breedis family moved into their new home. They were smart though. They had a home inspector come in and make sure everything was safe to live in. But it seemed that the inspector might have missed something. It wasn't long before they moved in that everyone in the family started getting really sick. No matter how many different things they tried, no one could beat this sickness. So they called someone to come into their home and give a second inspection. The inspector found mold. But what was causing the mold? A bunch of dead animals. Hundreds of dead animal carcasses had been wrapped in newspapers and shoved into the walls. The newspapers that the animals were wrapped in were from the 1940s, so that means the animals had been there for almost 60 years. Apparently it's old Dutch witchcraft. You put dead animals in the walls and it's supposed to protect your family from sickness. Obviously it did the exact opposite. Maybe the spell was just too old? Can magic expire? Number 9. Snakes. There's a lot of different infestations that can ruin your home. Jan Perilla had one of the worst. She was walking through her apartment one day when she saw 2 small holes in the corner of her room. They were low to the ground next to the carpet. She was pretty pissed who had been smashing holes in her walls. Then she lifted up the carpet and found 2 snakes. She picked up one of those grabby claw things that old people have and she threw the snakes out her window. She didn't really think much of it. I'm sure there was someone walking by that was like, why is it raining snakes? The world is ending, it's time to loot. But then the snakes kept coming. She started finding them in her shower, in her couch, in her kitchen sink. She contacted the building manager and an exterminator came a few times to clear out snakes. They cleared out so many snakes, but they just kept coming. Eventually Jan had to move out of her apartment because she couldn't deal with the endless legless intruders. It's pretty gross. Number 8. A grenade. Usually when a contractor comes to do some renovations, they expect to find like water damage, maybe mouse poop, at best a secret porn stash. But I doubt they wanted to find a live grenade stuck in the wall. This is giving me flashbacks. I've never been to war, I've just seen a lot of Too many times have I been killed with a trick shot grenade or a kid with a noob tube. But anyways, this contractor found a grenade in the wall while doing some work in New Jersey. Like New Jersey needed some more reasons for people not to visit. You might run into the cast of Jersey Shore, or there's live grenades hidden in walls. He called the police, who then called the bomb squad to deal with it. After the grenade had been recovered by the bomb squad, they discovered that it was actually deactivated and there was no explosive material in it. However, the mystery of who owned the grenade and how it ended up in the walls was never solved. Number 7. A murder weapon. Donald Graham hit the jackpot when he got in a relationship with one of the richest women in England, Janet Brown. This was pretty much the biggest sugar mama situation I've ever seen. But I guess Donald was getting a little tired of the relationship because right before the two were supposed to leave on a trip to Paris, he had her transfer $300,000 to his bank account and then he killed her. Oof. But he was really smart about it. He had it set up so postcards would be sent from Paris to Janet's parents to make it look like she had left Donald and ran away with another man. The parents were so convinced that he was able to get close to them and then start siphoning money off of them. After they died, Donald was still stealing from their bank accounts, and an accountant noticed and then contacted the police. A full investigation was launched which led to Donald being arrested and convicted for Janet Brown's murder. Then years later, a contractor was tearing down walls at Janet's old apartment and found a bloodied airsoft gun. It's thought that Donald used the airsoft gun to beat Janet to death. I gotta say, if there are any sugar mamas out there who want to pay for my whole existence, I won't murder you. Pinky promise. Number 6. A witch's bottle. Being an archaeologist must be a little weird. You dig up a bunch of old stuff and you never really know what it's gonna be and who's gonna want it. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was an auction a few years ago for Napoleon's penis, and it sold for $3,000. Honestly, I was expecting it to be a lot more. But I mean, being important enough that people want to buy your penis after you die, that's pretty legendary. Let's get back on topic. An archaeological dig in Nottingham, England found something really weird in the wall of a castle. Not as valuable as Napoleon's mummified anteater, but equally as gross. It was a witch's potion. What is a witch's potion, you may ask? Well, it was some hair, some fingernail clippings, and someone's pee. The potion was kept in the walls to protect people from sickness. I guess we still have witches today, they're called hippies. They have no idea where the ingredients came from if they were all from the same person, like if it was a scavenger hunt to grab all these pieces from different people and put them together, and frankly, I'm fine with not finding out. Number 5. Secret tapes. A lot of horror movies start with people snooping around a house they just bought, or finding a room in their house that they never knew existed. I'm pretty sure that's how Jumanji starts, and Jumanji is basically a horror movie with upbeat soundtrack. Well, this story is about a guy who was looking through the crawl space in his home when he came across a secret panel that opened up a wall. He looked inside and there was an open safe. Inside the safe was a briefcase. Now this is the part in the movie where you're supposed to put the briefcase back and move on with your life. Let the creepy stuff happen to the next people who own the home. But the guy was too curious and he opened up the case. Inside the case was money from several different countries and a bunch of VHS tapes and a note that said, "Save yourself." Okay, this is the part where you step back and pretend like this didn't happen. You didn't see anything. Well, I mean, you keep the money, but you leave the rest. Well, this guy posted a picture of the whole thing on social media. He was contacted by the police and told to take the images down as they were part of an ongoing investigation. And then the story goes cold. There's no more information about what was on the tapes or what the note was about. And no one really knows what happened to the guy who opened the briefcase. My guess is that they killed him and replaced him with a clone. Very clean. Number 4. Cold hard cash. Sometimes you get lucky with money, like contractor Bob Kitts, when he found almost $200,000 in Depression era money in the walls of a home he was renovating. He obviously was very surprised. He let the homeowner know, and the homeowner was also surprised. He had no idea he was sitting on a bunch of cash. Then the homeowner offered Kitts 10% of the money as like a finder's fee, but he refused. He wanted a bigger chunk. So the two went to court over who got to keep what. The case is obviously a little unusual, so it got picked up by the media. Eventually it got back to the rich dude who had originally hid the money in the walls. When everything was said and done, Bob Kitts only walked away with a few grand in his pocket. This guy should have followed the golden rule of finding money. Always steal it. Number 3. Baby mummy. If there's anything this list is teaching you, it's that if you're doing renovations in your home, be prepared. For what? Well, it could literally be anything. Like when this couple was doing renovations on their home back in 1850s Paris, and they found a dead baby in their walls. Not the best day. And their day got even worse when they went to the police, and then the police arrested them for murdering the baby. That's a tough one to get out of. You can't be like, "That's not my dead baby. I just found that dead baby. It's Paris in 1850. There's dead babies everywhere." Luckily, a doctor was able to determine the time of the baby's death by studying the insects that were living inside the baby's mummified body. It was found that the baby had been there for a super long time, way before the couples moved in. Back then, France smelled so bad that you wouldn't even notice if a dead baby was living in your walls. But 2. Cameras. When you rent an Airbnb, what's your biggest fear? That the owner has hidden a bunch of cameras in the place to watch you sleep and do a bunch of other stuff that you don't want ever recorded on camera? Well, just so you know, this has happened before, and it's probably gonna make you feel super uncomfortable. Let's go straight to Japan in 2016. A couple moves into their new place they just rented. It's owned by a Japanese millionaire, Masaki Imata. After they were all settled into their new place, they found a few articles online about how this rich dude likes to hide cameras in the apartments he owns. So they went searching through their place and found some. Then the police got involved and they found a whole system of cameras in several different properties, along with an evil lair he had with a big screen TV to watch people. Super creepy. If this happened to me, I wouldn't be worried about him having footage of me naked or going to the bathroom or something. I would be worried of him having footage of me having one of those fake arguments where you're like, "Yeah, I would have said that, and then would have said this, and yeah, that would have showed him." That's way more embarrassing. Number 1. Herman Mudgett. To top off our list, we have one of the most famous serial killers in American history. Herman Mudgett, aka Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, was a serial killer in the late 1800s. His weapon of choice? A giant hotel. He purchased a pharmacy and then turned it into an elaborate hotel. It had rooms with secret entrances in the walls, staircases that would lead nowhere, and windowless rooms, as well as trap doors to slide dead bodies into the basement. He would sneak into people's rooms through these secret entrances, chloroform them, strangle them. Some rooms were set up so he could pump poison gas into them. After he was arrested, he admitted to killing over 200 people. Woo!
Woo! Starting off at number 10 now, we have the abortion clinic. We are beginning now with a really intense one, so I hope you are all ready. I have warned you. In 2012, it was reported that workers on a house in Missouri discovered a secret basement which used to be an illegal abortion clinic. The workmen found 2 human fetuses stored in jars there. They were protected by ceramic containers and covered with a cloth beneath an old medical examining table. The owner didn't seem to be surprised, as he had heard rumours from his parents that the house was being used as an illegal abortion clinic back in the 1950s. Police were called to decide on what to do with the fetuses, but they said they would not be investigating any further. If that sounds like a very strange discovery, we are only just getting started. Moving on to number 9 now, we have Joshua's room. A pair of house hunters in America were seriously disturbed by what they found in the basement of one house they were looking at. There were strange lookout holes in the stairs coming from the basement below. When they went down to the basement, they found graffiti written for what seemed to be a little boy called Joshua. The walls were covered with messages like, "Josh, stop reading this and go to bed. Mom." Another read, "Josh's rules. 1. No watching Isaiah through the hole, and 2. No writing or drawing on the walls." Another simply said, "Don't climb into my room, Isaiah." But for me, the most creepy one was, "Stop watching me." Who were Joshua and Isaiah? Why were they living in the basement, and who was watching them? People still discuss this story even today. At number 8 now, we have the gargoyle. In 2014, Imgur user Hickensaws shared their discovery of a secret room in their house. They said they were walking around their house one day when they noticed a window for a room they didn't even know existed. It looked like a cellar. Inside there was a workbench fastened to the wall. Then he found a wall panel cut, which he peeled back to reveal a door behind the workbench. Through that door laid a creepy looking room filled with junk. There were newspapers from the 1970s, old playing cards, a strange looking machine, and perhaps creepiest of all, an old gargoyle surrounded by broken bits of wood. Gargoyles are pretty creepy, even on a good day. Extra creepy when you find them in a secret room under your house. No thanks. At number 7 now, we have the squatter. This one comes from Imgur user 2Bite Brownie, who shared pictures of a creepy discovery in his house. He said he and his younger brother were playing around one day when one of them fell into a bookcase. It moved, revealing a hidden room behind it. They found a black staircase that spiraled downwards. By this point, they were already very freaked out. About halfway down, they found a crawl space, and to their absolute horror, it looked like someone had been living there. There was a makeshift bed covered in their own Halloween candy. They realized that whoever was living there must have crawled into their bedroom when they weren't there to steal candy from them before retreating back to their hiding spot behind the bookshelf. I think at that point I'd either be running out the front door or just jumping straight out the window. Moving on to number 6 now, we have black mold. Jason and Kerry Brown were a couple from South Carolina who were renovating their new home in 2005. They began to remove some bookcases in one of the bedrooms when they discovered a hidden passageway that led to a hidden room. Nervously, they walked down the dark corridor, and there, in the very small room at the end, they found a mysterious note from the previous owner. It read, "You found it. Hello. If you're reading this, then you found the secret room. I owned this house for a short while, and it was discovered to have a serious mold problem, one that actually made my children very sick to the point we had to move out." Kerry Ann Johnson were naturally very shocked by this. They eventually made contact with the previous owner, who went into more detail about that situation. After some tests on the house, they found that it was true. The house had levels of black mold 4 to 5 times higher than the outside, potentially dangerous for young children. It seems that the house broker may have hid this information when selling them the house. Perhaps they should be thankful to the stranger and their slightly creepy note. Moving on to number 5 now, we have bad stomach. In 2013, some Norwegian students said their landlord told them there was a secret room somewhere in their house, but not where it was. That's creepy enough, but they actually found it and they took these pictures. One of them said it took them a long time to discover it, and said that it was actually found by accident when one of them was in the attic and just kind of stretched out. Suddenly, the wall behind them moved. Behind it, they found a tiny area filled with items from World War II. There was a mysterious sign that read, "If you have a bad stomach, you do not have access." There was also an alarm made of a single light bulb, an old map of Europe, and perhaps the most creepy object of all, a single white doll shoe. It was all quite a mystery until they were visited by some local historians who saw the post online. It turns out the room was used to secretly make newspapers newspapers during the Nazi occupation in World War II. Although they tried, the Nazis never actually found that room. All they needed to do was just stretch and push the wall. Simple. Next up at number 4 now, we have the crawl space. This one is a very small room. Very small indeed. Only enough room to crawl in. It was discovered in 2014 by Reddit user Lumberjack. He posted a picture to Reddit and what he discovered so far in it. The crawl space contained a strange looking locked door. Now through that door there was a room where the walls, floor and ceiling were totally covered in soundproofing boards and a plastic tarp. There were also 4 power outlets and a small area that looked like a raised single bed. The creepiest part was yet to come though. He found a briefcase. Inside that was an old jewelry box, envelopes with currency from all over the world and 4 1-ounce silver ingots. There was also a safe containing some old tapes. He couldn't play them though, and so decided to hand everything over to the police at that point. They refused to reveal the results of their investigation, sparking fierce debate about what this creepy room was all about. My guess is spies. It's gotta be spies. What do you guys think? At number 3 now, we have The Stranger. This is another squatter story. In 2013, Brett Muglin and Mark Hartman moved into their new off-campus house for their senior year at Ohio State University. After a few days in their new home, they woke one morning and found every door in their house had been opened. Everything. Room doors, the dishwasher door, the fridge dryer, washing machine, oven and microwave, all of them had their doors open. At first they thought it was just a college prank, but one day they heard noises coming from downstairs. They grabbed a baseball bat and a knife and went to investigate. When they reached the basement, they found a locked door no one had a key to, and there were sounds coming from inside. A few days later, one of their friends who was visiting said that they had met their new housemate Jeremy in the basement. Brett and Mark just froze and said, "We don't have a housemate called Jeremy." At that point, they called the landlord and the police, who went straight to that mysterious door. They prized open the door to find a secret room that a man had been living in the whole time they were there. There were pictures of him with his friends and family by the bed. The bed itself was unmade and there were books everywhere. The room even included a toilet and a bathroom. He had been using a secret side door to sneak in and out of the house. It turns out the man's cousin had lived in the house the year before, and when they all left, he just set up in this secret basement room. I wonder how long he was planning on staying for. Next up at number 2 now, we have The Last Supper. In Hanny's restaurant and bar, there is a secret room you can visit if you know where to look. You may not want to though. Deep in this basement in Arizona, you can find these dolls on display. At first it looks like they've been randomly placed, but on closer inspection the dolls seem to be set up to mimic the famous painting of The Last Supper. I presume the doll in the middle is meant to be Jesus. Either way, it's a very creepy sight to see, even if you are expecting it. If you just stumbled across it while you're looking for the bathroom, well, it's probably a good job you're already on the way to the toilet. And finally, number 1 now, we have Peter Pan. In 2010, 2 women clearing out an abandoned basement in an old building in LA made a very gruesome discovery. They found the bodies of 2 babies from the 1930s. The bodies were wrapped in sheets and hidden in 2 doctor's bags, along with some crumpled 1930s newspapers and other belongings. The trunk had the name J.M. Barrie on it. Now, she was a nurse from Scotland. She had the same initials as James M. Barrie, the Scottish author of Peter Pan. Yeah, the Peter Pan. What's strange though is that there appears to be no connection between the 2 of them. A copy of Peter Pan and membership papers for the Peter Pan Woodland Club Resort were also included in those findings. Coroners said there were no signs of trauma on the babies or that they had been aborted. One had reached full term while the other was much smaller and could have been born prematurely. This mysterious and grisly case is still ongoing, and many people online have taken it upon themselves to solve this mystery.
Secret room behind a bookshelf brings us to number 10. I know what you guys must be thinking. This has to be a hoax, right? Wrong. This stuff actually happens in real life, believe it or not. And maybe you have a secret room in your house that's waiting to be discovered. So right now, go around your house, start breaking down walls. Okay, maybe not. Okay, let's get back into this. We have 2 brothers who are playing around in one of the rooms in their house when the little brother ran into the bookshelf and it opened up, and it actually led them to a secret spiral staircase that led to another secret crawl space. Sounds cool, right? Well, think again. A stranger was apparently living in this room, and that's not all. That's not where this ends. The stranger must have snuck around the house and stolen items from them, because there was empty wrappers from Halloween candy that was taken from one of the boys' rooms. Could you imagine having a creeper living in your house, tiptoeing around, maybe, you know, watching you as you sleep? Creepy religious room is in at number 9 on our list. A family made a shocking discovery when they decided to find out what was hiding underneath a large metal grate that was in the middle of their hallway. hallway. After removing the crate, they found a hole that was just big enough for them to squeeze through. I'm pretty sure a small hole in the ground would be enough for me to not squeeze through it, but for me to, walk away. But not for this family for some reason. Once they made it down the creepy shaft, they were in a small pitch black cellar that looked like it could have been a chapel. In the middle of the room, there was an old wooden cross that was slowly rotting away, and there were also hooks hanging from the ceiling, which could have been used to hang a meat. So yeah, I'm naturally confused here. Was this a secret chapel, or maybe was it a kill room? I have no desire to find out what really went on in this cellar, so you know what? I think it's time that we move on. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's see what we have next. And well, we're at number 8 right now. Number 8, behind the walls. A family decided to put an offer on their dream home in Pennsylvania after the home inspection proved that it was a solid house. But the home inspector missed one huge detail. He failed to look at the walls and the strange thing that was hiding inside of them. The family wanted to add better insulation into one of the rooms, so they opened up the walls and they found a dark secret. They found some Old Spice cans and newspapers that dated back to like 30s or 40s, but that's not where the weird part of the story is. Those newspapers were covering bones from animal corpses. After they tore up the rest of the walls, the smell became unbearable, and the more they tried to fix it, the worse that it actually got. The family got very sick from the dead animals inside of their house, and they had to spend thousands of dollars trying to get rid of the animal bones. I mean, what happened and who put these bones in the wall? World War II hidden room comes in at number 7. A Reddit user from Norway posted some pretty disturbing pictures of a hidden room that he discovered in the attic of his house. Apparently his landlord told him that the house had a hidden room, but he was extremely vague on, where it was. So instead of working or being productive, the renter thought that it would be a good idea to go exploring, be Dora the Explorer. Well, he accidentally found the room when he kicked a wall in the attic. And inside of this dark secret room was a sign that read, if you have a bad stomach, then you don't have access. I mean, what the heck does that mean? I don't have a good stomach. I'd get the heck out of there. Why do I need a strong stomach? What is about to happen? Was he about to die? There was also a lamp alarm that was used to warn people nearby when someone came into the room, and there was an old map of Western Europe. Oh, and also they found an old doll shoe that looked like it came straight out of a horror movie. I'd say you're better off boarding up that wall and forgetting this wall or this experience ever existed. The real-life Dexter room slices its way into number 6. A man was extremely surprised when he discovered a small passageway in his attic that was blocked by a locked door. Locked doors for me mean I'm not going to enter. It means I'm not that curious. Well, obviously this made this person curious, and he decided to burst open the padlock to see what was hiding behind this door. Why do people do this? Well, he probably should have called his realtor and put the house back on the market, because what he found was actually pretty terrifying. Once he crawled through the tiny space, busted open the lock, and opened the door, he found a soundproofed room covered in plastic with a platform in the middle and a suitcase. I can only imagine what went on in this room. Inside of the suitcase there was jewelry and several black tapes that had "No, no, no" and "Save yourself" written on them. He handed the tapes over to the police, and I guess we'll never know what are on those tapes, but I'm sure we can all take a few wild guesses. Maybe this was the real life Dexter house. And I'm not talking about Dexter, what is it called? Dexter's Laboratory. I'm not talking about it was his house. I'm talking about the guy that murdered people. Peephole staircase brings us to number 5. 2 people were house hunting when they stumbled across this extremely terrifying discovery. They made their way down a flight of rickety old stairs into the basement, and they were pretty disturbed. Behind the stairs, they found an area that looked like it was being used as a bedroom, of some sort. On the back of the stairs, there were creepy and disturbing messages written on the walls. Some of the notes said, "No watching Isaiah through the hole," and "Stop watching me," and also, "Is this real life right now?" Okay, that's something that I would write on the wall. I don't think they saw that on the wall. If they did, that's pretty cool. Well, what's going on here? When they looked even closer, they saw that there were small peepholes carved out of the stairs, so whoever was locked away in this room was able to see out. This is way too sinister for me, and I just want to forget the existence of this, so let's move on. A secret roommate jumps onto our list at number 4. A secret roommate? Well, a group of students from Ohio made a shocking discovery when they found out that a man had been living in a secret room in their house. And you know what? He wasn't even paying rent. Well, that's probably one of the scariest things that could happen to you when you move into a new home. Make sure the new home is empty first. At first, the students thought that they were being haunted by a ghost because their cupboards were always left open and they heard strange noises. But as it turns out, the ghost was actually a real person, and the truth was way more terrifying. After they extensively searched the house, they discovered a room in the basement behind a door that led to a secret room. Inside, they found a double bed, students' textbooks, and pictures. I guess college is really expensive because this guy was living rent-free for a very long time. The student quickly changed the locks and left a note for their unwanted roommate, telling him that he couldn't live there anymore. If it was me, I'd probably leave a note saying $800, please. And then you can stay in that secret room and I won't tell anybody. We don't have to get the police involved. A terrifying hideout takes us to number 3. An HVAC worker was doing some renovations on a house when he suddenly discovered a secret room in the attic of the garage. He realized that a piece of the wall didn't look like it belonged. So he pushed on it, which turned out to be a hidden room. Inside, there were air vents, stained wood walls, carpeted floors, cable hookups, electrical outlets, and even a makeshift bathroom. There were some personal items thrown around the room and 2 license plates hung on the wall. At first he thought that someone was kept against their will, but the lock was on the inside, not the outside. So that takes that theory out the window. So this room was meant to keep people out. I don't know what is more terrifying. Well, as it turns out, this house used to belong to a man named RJ and his mother D.D. Moore, also known as the Lottery Killer. She was convicted of murdering a man who won the lottery back in 2012. So maybe this is her secret room that she wanted to use to hide from the police. Number 2, the secret prison cell. Christian Perez has been working as a home inspector in Tampa, Florida for many years. And during his career, he has stumbled across lots of secret and hidden rooms. But he will never forget what he found years ago during one of his inspections. Whenever he thinks about it, he still gets the chills down his spine. He found a small dark room that was tucked behind a wall in the attic. It had a small bed, a strange map of a city, and also tons of empty food cans, so clearly someone's been living there. The homeowners who had been living in the house for the past 25 years, well, they said that they never even knew that this room existed. So could it be plausible that someone lived there for the past 25 years? During an investigation, no one was able to come up with a definitive answer for what this room was used for. But they speculate that someone might have been held captive there. And this is why you should always have a home inspection before buying. And I'm thinking we go one small step forward, and anytime you buy a house, I think you should just gut it. The Murder Castle tops this list at number 1. One of the most notorious buildings that was full of secret rooms was the Chicago Murder Castle, which was designed by the infamous serial killer H.H. Holmes. The entire building was posed as a hotel, but in reality, it was a maze full of secret kill rooms with winding passageways, trapdoors, chutes, and dungeons that was full of acid vats and other torturous devices. When it was being built, he hired construction workers, and then he killed them so no one had any idea what was going on. He killed the people that designed the room, so now no one knows about it. The building had its very own crematorium so that he can use to, dispose of his victims' bodies in secret. This has to be one of the most scariest things I've ever heard of. I wonder if there are other buildings like this in the world, and I'm willing to say that there probably are. I mean, this guy probably inspired a lot of other people, which is crazy to say.
Starting off this countdown, we have the cats. A couple of years ago in an old cottage in Pendle, Lancashire, a crusty mummified cat was found inside one of the walls. Apparently, back in the day, people thought that hiding cats in walls was a way to ward off evil spirits. It's very common to find these mummified cats all over the UK in 17th and 18th century buildings. The particular building in Pendle, though, is thought to be the location where one of the most famous witch covens met. In 1612, 11 men and 1 woman from the coven were accused of witchcraft, and they were hung as a result. That is pretty freaking dark and creepy. Like, imagine being a cat lover and then finding a dead cat in your walls. Moving on to number 9, we have the underwear. And if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Imagine renovating your home and finding centuries old, used, dirty underwear in your walls. I would barf. That is disgusting. All across Western Europe, homeowners were finding these lovely gifts inside of their walls. In fact, it's such a common thing to find that people stopped caring and just kind of expect it nowadays. Apparently, hiding underwear in the walls dates back to the Middle Ages. They would often be stored alongside important documents or coins. Others hid their undies because it went along with a superstition. They thought that stashing away the panties would keep their house and everyone inside it safe. I don't know how a pair of dirty underwear could do that, but it's what they believed. Moving on to number 8, we have the snakes. If you know me, then you know I am not a fan of snakes. So I find this next story horrifying. Back in September of 2009, a couple named Ben and Amber Sessions moved into their brand new home in Idaho. They were so excited for their new adventures in this home. That was until they found the walls of their house filled with snakes. So apparently the home was on top of a snake den. The snakes would get into their house and slither through the walls and floors. Amber described living there as living in Satan's lair, and I couldn't agree more. Imagine waking up and finding a bunch of snakes in your bed. Like, that would be my worst nightmare. Coming in at number 7, we have the black mold. Back in November of 2011, the Brown family moved into a new home in Greenville, South Carolina. They were shocked after they moved an old bookcase aside and found a secret corridor, which to me is so fascinating because I've always wanted a secret passageway or a secret room in my house, but not this one. Inside the corridor, there was a note from the previous owner. The note from the owner says that he was living there for a while until his family started to feel very sick. That's when he discovered the house had a serious mold problem. And just like that, the home started to make the Brown family sick as well. As a result, they got their money back because the mold was not disclosed to them, and they packed up and left. Moving on to number 6, we have the spiders. This is another story that will give you the creepy crawlies. Back in October of 2014, a couple was forced to leave their newly bought home after finding it was infested with spiders. I don't know what's worse, having thousands of spiders pour out of your walls or snakes. Anyways, the couple said it looked like the spiders were bleeding out of their walls because all of a sudden they just started pouring out. That is so disgusting. To make it worse, the type of spiders were brown recluse spiders. Their bites can be deadly. The couple didn't want to take any chances, and so they got the hell out of there. This looks like the job for Bob Duncan and his Bob Bugs Be Gone. If you get that reference, then hit that thumbs up button and let me know in the comments below. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the toxic waste. In February of 2017, an Ontario man found 400 barrels of toxic waste hidden behind the walls of his home. Yes, 400 barrels. What on earth were they doing there, you ask? Well, apparently the home's original owner, John Curry, was the head of a tar product business, and he never got rid of his waste properly. In fact, he had a record for inappropriate waste disposal. So who knows where other barrels of his waste may be? Now here's the thing. The owner after John found 400 barrels himself when knocking out a wall. Then the next owner found an additional 400 barrels. So in total, there were 800 barrels of toxic cancer-causing waste behind the walls. That is absolutely insane. Moving on to number 4, we have the secret cameras. Not gonna lie, I am now so paranoid to go to Airbnbs or hotels because the amount of stories of people finding the places rigged up with cameras. It happens more often than you think. Take this next story, for example. Back in April of 2016, a couple in Sydney, Australia discovered something quite disturbing. They were on a rental forum reading reviews when they saw reviews about their current landlord. The posts were from previous tenants, warning them about cameras he had installed in their walls. And they were right. After searching their home, they found multiple cameras hiding in walls, lights, smoke detectors, you name it. All of the cameras were connected to a shed that was near their house, but the landlord told them that only he has access to this shed. Well, guess what? Inside that shed was the landlord's creepy personal lair, where he would just watch the cameras. They called the cops on him and he was sentenced to 17 months in prison. Moving on to number 3, we have the human foot. A couple of years ago, a guy was helping his friend renovate her new home. They were tearing down walls and lifting up floorboards when they came across a real human foot. At first, they didn't know what it was because it didn't have flesh on it anymore. It was just a pile of bones, some pieces still connected, others snapped or broken off. But they ended up calling the cops and they discovered it was indeed a real foot. The scariest part is, if that's a real foot, then where's the rest of the body and who does it belong to? Does that mean that they'll have to rip apart the whole house to try and find the complete set of human bones? I don't want to know. In our second spot, we have the murder victim. Back in 2013, a family in New York discovered a false wall in their basement. To their horrors, laying behind the wall was the body of a woman that had been missing for 28 years. Her hands were tied and her body was wrapped in plastic bags and then placed in a plastic container. This woman was reported missing by her husband back in 1985. Clearly, he was the one behind her death, but he was never charged or convicted of this crime, because he passed away several months before the family found the body. And in our number one spot, we have the uninvited guest. This next true story sounds like it came straight out of a horror film or something. Close. It was written by a horror author, Grady Hendrix. This is apparently a real incident that happened to him when he was a kid. So basically, one day he snuck downstairs in the middle of the night to grab a sneaky snack. But when he looked into the kitchen, he saw a strange, thin man standing there eating their leftovers and drinking their milk straight out of the carton. In the morning, he told his parents, but they didn't believe him. Then another day, he was reading in his room when he looked up and saw a pair of eyes watching him from the vent above him. The parents searched the attic and crawl space but found nothing. That was until one night, rice fell out of the vent and onto his bed. Turns out that it wasn't rice, but a maggot. There were now a bunch of maggots in the vent. They got it inspected and turns out that there was a man living in their walls and vent system. He ended up dying in there. That is absolutely horrifying, and probably why Grady became a horror writer in the first place, from all that childhood trauma. Starting off this countdown, we have Pablo Escobar. It was a very smart decision for Christian de Boudoir and his wife to purchase Pablo Escobar's old abandoned mansion. Legend goes that Escobar would hide tons of money all over the place, so chances are there's money stashed away somewhere in the walls. And in 2016, they made a pretty miraculous discovery while excavating the property. They found a safe hidden beneath the entrance of the house. The safe was about 2 feet by 2 feet and weighed about 600 to 700 pounds. But sadly, its contents were never revealed. But because it was hidden on the property, chances are it contains a boatload of money. Moving on down at number 9, we have the vintage house. Urban explorer and photographer that goes by the name Freaktography has found some amazing discoveries over the years. Most of the stuff he finds are very old and dirty and damaged, but in rare cases he comes across some very interesting finds. In this case, he was exploring an abandoned suburban home from the 70s. Inside, it was filled with vintage gems, like vintage collectibles like old Barbie dolls, Polaroid cameras, and a bunch of figurines like Yoda, E.T., and a Star Wars figurine set. Those things must be worth a lot by now. Moving on to number 8, we have the farmhouse. So back in 2017, Reddit user Evil English decided to explore his grandparents' old abandoned house in Tennessee. While doing so, he noticed a block of concrete in the floor by the staircase. The concrete had a round cap on it, and when he pried it off, he noticed it was a safe. Yeah, a secret safe that was built into the wooden floors. The family then hired a locksmith to open the safe, and inside was a collection of valuable items. He found coins, silver bars, cash, and antiques, all worth thousands of dollars. Coming in at number 7, we have the money in the walls. In 2007, antiques dealer Jeff Beetleman was asked to scope out an abandoned house by the late daughter's owner. She had always heard stories of treasure being buried in the walls, and she wanted to see if it was true. Plus, it was an abandoned house, so she had no problem with tearing a few walls down. And turns out that this legend was true. They found a bunch of old coins from 1826 to 1964, worth $200,000. Turns out that her relatives would use a slit in the wall as like a giant piggy bank. In our 6th spot, we have the cellar. When you're exploring an abandoned house, especially the attic or cellar, chances are you're more likely to find a dead body stashed away there than anything worth money. But that wasn't the case for some workers in France. Workers were demolishing an old abandoned house when they came across exactly 600 gold coins in a container in the cellar. The coins were from Belgium and dated back to the 1870s. They featured the king from back then, King Leopold II's face on them. It said that these coins are worth about 100,000 euros, which is about 118,000 American dollars. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the movie posters. Back in 2007, a man named Blair Peter moved into a home in Alberta, Canada and began renovating it. The house was originally built in the early 1900s and it needed some work. But while lifting up some floorboards, he found tons of old original movie posters. He continued on renovating the house and found more movie posters stuffed in the crawl space and under the roof of the house. So it's thought that they were used as insulation, and obviously it wasn't worth money back then. But now, cha-ching. He found more than 360 posters. Apparently the man that owned the house was the owner of a local movie theater. So some of these posters were the ones hung up in the lobby of the theater. It was thought that Peter could get around $50,000 for some of the posters. That's one plus of buying an older house. There's a chance it's filled with hidden treasures just like this. In our 4th spot, we have the Time Capsule House. Again, another abandoned house where the urban explorer Freaktography struck gold. So story goes that he had driven by this abandoned house a number of times, but had no clue it was actually abandoned. That was until one day he noticed the windows were boarded up. A month later, the door was open. Time for him to enter. When he went inside, it was like he entered a time capsule. The house was filled with vintage items. He found old board games, antiques, and artifacts. Items that would be worth thousands. But as he always claims, he never moves anything from the house. He just photographs them and then leaves. He takes nothing but photos and leaves nothing but footprints. That's his motto. If he did take these items though, that dude would be rich by now. Coming in at number 3, we have the Mayan artifacts. Imagine being a junk removal specialist. Like, that's an actual job. You get paid to come in and clean up other people's crap. It doesn't sound that rewarding, but in this one case, it definitely was. In 2009, a team of junk removal specialists were called into an abandoned Soho apartment to clear things up. But inside, they found a bunch of valuable artifacts, including an ancient Mayan artifact, ancient figurines, and some valuable bowls and jugs. Altogether, these items are said to be worth around $19,000. Yikes. And to think that almost ended up in the landfill. Coming in at number 2, we have Superman. In 2013, a contractor was tearing down some walls in an abandoned house that he planned to renovate and then move into with his 4 children. While doing so, he found that the walls were stuffed with newspapers for insulation. But among the newspaper was a 1938 comic book showcasing the debut of Superman. It said that it was a virgin copy. That's like actually what they call it, but okay, sorry. It said that it was a virgin copy. Despite it being in not the best condition, the comic still sold at auction for $175,000. He actually would have gotten more from it, but in an argument with his relatives, the back of the cover got ripped, which decreased its value by $75,000. But still, that's one lucky man. And in our number 1 spot, we have the rolls of cash. I swear, urban explorer Freaktography has the best of luck. So he was out exploring an abandoned home near where he lived. He said that the house was abandoned for almost 30 years. While in the house setting up to take some photos, he noticed something odd sticking out from behind the mattress. It was a tin, and inside were bundles of tightly rolled up American and Canadian money. He said there was about $6,800 there. Now, he could have just made off with the money, but instead, he did the right thing. He tracked down the original owners and returned the money back to them. They had no clue the money was even stashed there, but they were incredibly grateful.
We're starting off the list with booby traps. When Matt Feeney bought an old home in Denver, Colorado. He ended up making a pretty startling discovery. While renovating, Matt smelled what seemed to be matches being lit. He had been knocking down some of the walls and found a series of matches placed one after the other, forming kind of a fuse. The new homeowner soon discovered that the first owners of the home are the Smaldone family, a notorious crime family that was pretty infamous in the Colorado area. He also found a hidden chamber in the basement, which led to a small dugout room where many believe the crime family hid things. As to what those things were, we can only guess, but probably nothing good. Number 9, under the stairs. A couple years ago, a Redditor by the name of Perspicum posted a photo with a caption reading, "The new house my parents bought has a secret room under the stairs. As cool as this is, I would probably arm myself before going down there." But yes, I definitely would. This image really invokes a lot of creepy images in my head though. Anytime there's a hidden room, there's two obvious questions that come to all our minds. One, what's down there? Of course, that's a pretty obvious one. And two, why would this room be hidden? As soon as I saw this image, I was immediately reminded of the Wes Craven movie, The People Under the Stairs. Creepy movie, creepy picture, scares all around. Mold. In 2005, Jason and Carrie Brown purchased a new home, and as they were doing renovations, they discovered a room behind a bookshelf that was kind of built into the wall and actually swung out, kind of like a door. They never knew this room existed, and inside of it they found a note that read, "Hey, if you're reading this, then you found the secret room." The letter was written by the previous homeowner, who went on to explain that they had moved out of the house due to having a mold problem, and that had made their children actually sick, forcing them to move out. Of course, the new owners were pretty alarmed and ended up suing the real estate agent who sold them the home, which was definitely warranted. But I gotta say, kinda not cool for the previous owner to hide information like that in a secret room. What if they never found it? Why play games like that? You know what I'd do in this situation? I'd write that same letter and then I'd just send it in the mail. That way I'd know they'd get it, instead of being like, no, they must find the secret room behind the magic bookshelf in order to protect themselves from the poisonous mold. What is this guy? Like, what is he? Is it the Riddler or something? Just tell them that information. It's not the kind of thing you want to hide. Anyway, number 7. In a series of videos originally shared on TikTok, a young couple had just purchased a 130-year-old home before receiving a letter written by someone who had grown up in the home, referring to themselves as the last surviving member of the Madison family. The letter detailed a series of hidden rooms and compartments all throughout the house, which the couple started going on a scavenger hunt to find. Just imagine how fun that would be. First of all, just buying a house would be great, right? Then discovering you have a bunch of secret rooms all over the place. Sign me up. Anyway, the couple found a cabinet with a bunch of vintage liquor bottles, still full, mind you. There was a hidden space behind some panels in the bathroom. There had also been some antique furniture left behind, including a music box that played a decidedly eerie tune. Definitely the type of house that would be haunted if that's the sort of thing you believe in. Not something I really believe in myself, but I'd probably be a little freaked out roaming around that house alone at night. It kind of looks like the house from Hellraiser a little bit. A couple had just purchased a home in Logan, Utah. One day, they made a pretty eerie discovery. The mother had tried to move a bookcase, but discovered it was secured on. When she finally managed to move it though, it revealed a room that hadn't been mentioned in the listing for the home. I don't know why all these secret rooms are hidden behind bookshelves, but apparently that's the deal. It was this dingy room with nothing but a fold-out chair and ladder sitting in the middle and various objects that I can't quite make out, but it definitely doesn't look like a very friendly place. A lot of people have stated this kind of looked like maybe a torture room. I'd be pretty stoked to find out if there was an extra room in my house, even if it was a torture room, especially if I just bought the house. I'd be feeling like I got a bit of a deal. Even if there were some, missing folks in the neighborhood that met their end in said room. Gotta make the best of everything in life, right? I'd make good use of it. Throw out the old chair, first of all, just get rid of anything in that room. Who knows who sat on that thing, and then put out some lights in there, have a hidden party room or something. Number 5. Stroller. 5 years ago, a Redditor named J.K. Main shared a photo of what they saw when they opened up their attic for the first time, simply writing, "I should never have opened the attic." All you see is a dark, cramped attic space with nothing but this lonely old stroller. So sure, this is what happens. Someone had a stroller, baby grew up, they didn't need it anymore, into the attic it goes. The stroller, not the baby. But then again, we don't have any more pictures, so maybe there was a little skeleton in that stroller. We'll never know. There's something about attics and basements that just creeps us all out though, doesn't it? And it's hard not to look at this image without feeling a little pang of uneasiness. It's an old-timey looking stroller too that really reminds me of something you'd see in an old gothic horror movie or something, and you also can't help but wonder what is in that stroller. Probably nothing, but I mean, you never know. Imagine seeing this in your attic and then one night you're lying in bed and you hear the sound of squeaky wheels slowly rolling about above the ceiling, accompanied by the faint sound of a child's laughter. Number 4, bunker bugs. A Redditor by the name of Colombian Thunder posted an image captioned, "Found out the house we are living in has a bunker below. I managed to squeeze my phone in one of the cracks of the door to take this creepy picture." And this is what his phone captured. So yeah, pretty vomit inducing. This picture is just a nice reminder that despite how critter-free we try to make our living spaces, as much as we try to forget that they even exist, it's all just an illusion, baby. There are thousands and thousands of insects all around us at all times. Just too many insects, and we all know it. We just don't like thinking about it. Imagine going to bed at night knowing all these crickets are scuttling around under you. I actually kind of like crickets generally. I think they're oddly cute in a way, but these look like a different kind of cricket. They almost look like a cross between a spider and a cricket. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure some bug or insect fanatic knows exactly what these are, but just the sheer amount of them too. I mean, just stare at this image and try not to squirm a little bit. You can almost feel them crawling under your skin. Number 3, the bed. This next story comes to us from Stephen and Carolyn Sparks, who found a secret room behind the bathroom wall in the basement of their recently purchased home in East Sussex. And it looks like a room you'd see in a Saw movie. It's terrifying, just real nasty looking. In this dingy room, they discovered nothing but a pile of boxes in the corner and this incredibly comfortable looking iron bed frame. What a cozy looking room. It must have been nice for Stephen to know he got into a bad argument with his wife one night. He could just pop down to the basement and curl up there for the night. The bed takes up the whole width of the room, so does not look comfortable at all. I was being sarcastic in case you didn't realize. This would be just a claustrophobic nightmare. As to what went on in this room, who knows? Like I said, the room was hidden behind the wall in their basement bathroom, so I don't know. I don't think anything was good happening back there. I'm imagining someone was in that room who didn't want to be, though, because look at it. Who in their right mind would want to be there? Duct tape as many Pixar movie posters in there as you want. Try and make it as friendly and inviting as possible. This place still looks like a scene at a hostel. So, moving on. Number 2, Ohio. Oh boy. Yeah, this one comes to us from Ohio, the land of the strange. Students of Ohio State University, renting a home just off campus, had started joking around with each other that there was a ghost in their home when they began discovering some of their cupboards and even their microwave and oven were being left open. One day they decided to explore their basement, where they happened across a locked door. A door which they had believed led to a simple utility closet. But once they opened it, they discovered something much worse than junk. It was a room full of someone's stuff. A surprise roommate, if you will, which is never a pleasant surprise. I think most of us like knowing exactly how many and who our roommates are, but that's just me, maybe. Found framed photos, textbooks, a bed, whole 9 yards. A guy was living there. Apparently he didn't turn out to be dangerous, but it looks to me like he didn't turn out to be all that smart either. If you're gonna be squatting in someone else's home, take notes here. Maybe, and this is just my opinion, but you might want to close the cupboards when you're done rooting through them. And the microwave too. You can't even close the microwave? Are you an animal? Yeah, anyway, it just helps prevent suspicion when you leave things the way you found them, you know? And coming in at number 1 is crawl space. In 2014, a fellow on Reddit going by the name of Lumberjack found a mysterious crawl space in the basement of his new home, which contained some pretty harrowing stuff. It all started when he found a movable panel in his basement. When he opened it up, he found a crawl space and in that crawl space was a black door sealed with a combination lock. One of the strangest things about this door was that it had an air vent on it, as if it had been made to keep someone trapped inside. When Lumberjack finally managed to get the lock open, he discovered a small soundproof room lined with plastic sheeting. He also found a briefcase and a safe. Inside of the safe, he found several VHS tapes, and a message was also written on the inside lid of the safe that simply read, "Do not." That was it. Lumberjack went to the police with all of this and was apparently told to take down the pictures he shared on Reddit. We also don't know what was on those tapes till this very day, and maybe it's better that we don't.